Well, hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and I've calmed down a lot since last week. Yes, I went back and rewatched episode 9 today for To Be Hero X. I couldn't wait because I was like, I watched To Be Hero X episode 9 a few days ago, and I had a very reactionary reaction, as one would expect from a reactor. So, but I rewatched the discussion. I was like, okay, the discussion I'm fine with. The discussion, I don't think I was too bad. I put all my negativity bound up into the calamity corner, which I think was a good idea. I'm going to have to keep doing that if I have any negativity towards a show, we're just going to put it in the corner. We're going to put baby in a corner and then move on. And so that's exactly what we did. We took the negativity, we booted it out, and now we're ready to start with episode 10. So I'm pretty excited about that. But in any case, I have some questions that after rewatching episode 9 today, I have some questions that I want answered. And some of the questions like, is this the concert that Cyan was at? Is it the same one that Jia Qing was at? Those questions don't need to be answered. Where is Liu's daughter? Is she still a hero? We talked about that last week. Those questions for another day. My main questions are between what happened between the years 34 and 36 involving Cyan. Meaning, why didn't Liu investigate the orphanage, or did he? What did the dean say to Lo? They got him so worked up. When was Cyan told that Luo was dead? Because she said so at the concert, but she didn't believe that when she first left the orphanage. So when did she think that? Whose powers are the zombies? Is it Lo's or is it the dean's? Why did they check on the orphanage, or did they? Are Leo and Cyan related? Those questions are there. What is Cyan and Lo's actual powers? These are questions I have wrote down that hopefully we're going to answer on Whiteboard Coon when this episode is done, or Lee Hao Lin is going to say, psych, answering nothing, and I'm going to be very frustrated, so... We'll just have to see. But anyway, before we get started, I am too remiss. I have not checked the philanthropy tier in a while, and we had some new patrons be put on the philanthropy tier, so I want to give y'all a shout out. So thank you to everybody over on Patreon who supports my channel. You all are amazing, and I'm so grateful to each and every one of you and for your support. But a shout out always goes to our commission tiers and our philanthropy tiers, because they donate a little extra each month, and I'm so appreciative of it. So to Amor Facilica, Miss Yan Rose, Alex Cornejo, Violet Stardust, Be Happy, Dana, Damage3245, Daniel, Aqua 2000, Devora, Destiny Marie, Yannon, Diana Williams, Ichu Eric, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, Sugar Mom, James, Poppy, Jessica Cullen, El Freya, Pancake, Linden, Murphy, Rast, Rose Jennison, Sunspots, Translucent Men, Shimoyama, Zero Anti-Zero, Nicholas, Sean, and Jason N. Thank you all so much for all of your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, that's what I got. I'm super excited to see what's going to happen, but I just need answers. I said it in episode 9. I'm like, if I get answers this week to some of these questions that seem like very big plot holes, then I will eat my foot, I'll eat my hat and be like, you got it, To Be Hero X. I shouldn't have doubted you. So we'll see if that happens. In any case, we are going to get started with episode 10 of To Be Hero X. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's go. Well. Okay. Well, that was an episode of To Be Hero X. That was an episode of To Be Hero X, to be sure, and I have many thoughts about it. I don't think my brain could keep up with everything happening all at once. I have a lot of thoughts about this episode, and so I was like, this whole episode was just like a Jackson Pollock of chaos. And I was like, okay, we need to deconstruct. We need to be open-minded. We need to deconstruct. Because I had, some reactions during it. And I was like, oh, there were some things that happened. I was like, oh, these were choices that were made in the writer's room. And there's a few moments I was like, did we let ChatGPT get a hold of the script? And then there were other moments that were really, really good. So, and there were some moments I was like, okay, I'm kind of all about this. There are definitely some questions. I'm not joking. The most exciting part of me in the entire episode was seeing Mr. Shang at the end back at the garage where his son's lab was and being like, okay, where are we going from this? I honestly think that so far, the very first arc, to me, in my opinion, and these are just opinions, they are subjective, they are opinions, they are not factual in any shape or form. To me, I think the first arc with Lin Ling is the most cohesive, best paced, most detailed, cohesive, structured arc of the series so far. And I think that's because it's had 4 episodes to work with. You had enough time to explain who Lin Ling was, explain his transformation into a hero, aka Nice, explain his relationship with Moon, have the conflict with Enlighter, solve the conflict with Enlighter, and then still leave us with this cliffhanger of Isol shooting Moon in the end and setting up this tournament that we haven't touched base on in like 6 episodes, which we might touch base on in this because I think we're going to go back to those little flashback stuff. So I feel like 4 episodes was just the perfect amount of time, the perfect amount of pacing to give you enough to get you invested, to make everything cohesively come together. My issue with the Yan Chong arc is that they only had 3 episodes to work with, and they were trying to tie it up in this nice little neat package. Oh, we have the one actor, 2 Isols, 3 seats title thing. Isn't that clever? And we've got to all make it fit within this 3-act structure. And to me, it falls kind of short because you don't have enough time to spread out Yang Chong's descent into his own selfishness and self-obsession and then becoming Isol. And that's kind of its own, to me, that's the only negative about that arc, is that I just needed one more episode to show that descent even further. The same problem exists in this, but like on a whole nother level. I feel like they needed way more time with this storyline because there's so many plot points that are abandoned. There's so many things that don't make sense. There's so many things that don't wrap up cleanly. The stuff that does wrap up cleanly, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about all of this. I have so many thoughts about this episode, but I want to give it a fair shake. So we kind of divided this into the answers that we're going to get to our list, the answered things and things we find out in this episode, the good, because there is good in this episode, don't get me wrong, the nah, like I'm not going to say it's bad, but I'm going to go nah, like just stuff that I was like, show, we are making a lot of assumptions. And then the unanswered. This stuff is the stuff that fascinates me the most. The stuff that we don't have answers to the questions, the things that are introduced that aren't expanded upon. That's the stuff I'm excited about the most because a series like this deserves that. And then I'll give you all my final thoughts after we die. I feel like before I don't want to say my true feelings about this show yet because I feel like maybe once I get back into the episode and I have time to like go through it with you all and break it down, that I'll feel a little bit, better about it. We can talk about the arc as a whole, which I'm really excited to do so. So we didn't get an ED for this episode either. We just got the OP. So let's dive into this episode and see what we got here in 3, 2, 1, and just start in the episode with I like that in traditional fashion, CEO man, Jay Jameson, whatever his name is. I'm just going to call it, I've called Jessica, I called Miss J Jessica when that's not her name. I'm just going to start calling him Jay Jameson after Spider-Man, because he has the J as it's formed on his little sweater there. Has the golf clubs in the background. Like, what a douche. I'm sorry, those of you that golf as a hobby, you are not douches. You are great people. You're wonderful people, but I feel like golf has a very, I don't know, I just don't get golf. But we're not going to judge people that like golf. If you like golf, amazing. I hope you go to the Masters one day. I hope you get that for you. I just think I feel like where I'm from, golf is kind of associated with like a little bit of elitism, a little bit of poshness, a little bit upper class. And sometimes it gets a little extreme, but whatever. So one thing that is good, I want to talk about, I really like Lucky Cyan. Lucky Cyan as a character, I really like her. I want to root for her. I feel for her. I love her drip. I love everything about her character. She's so sweet, and I feel like she gets a lot of shit thrown at her that she doesn't deserve to have thrown at her, especially in this episode. And I also like that she kind of stands by her convictions. She's like, no, I want to do this. I want to do that. And these men in authority around her can't let her be. I'm like, come on now. So Anyway, I do feel like I wish we had more with Ken. I wish we had more with Ken. So he's like, yes, I was waiting for you, so come on in. I lost track of time chatting with Queen and the other senior heroes. So this is technically something in the answered, but I'm going to put it under the unanswered. Queen is the hero name of Liu's daughter, which I think is very perfect because she seems quite controlling. Do I think it's rather interesting that Queen has the black, like she has the white diamonds, black earrings that look like the White Diamonds logo, and the white hair? Do I think it's kind of, could be ironic? I think Queen and X are the two that were on that poster in episode 1, that poster back in episode 1, where it showed the woman becoming in black. I feel like that's Queen. I don't know for sure, but it's just, my spider senses are tingling. I think that's Queen. So, and it would be kind of cool if she had white hair and X right now had black hair and then they swapped. I feel like that'd be awesome. We'll see if that happens. But if like their hero versus real personas switch, that would be freaking cool. But I don't know if it's going to happen. He's like, oh, you've gotten familiar with everybody. So let's establish some things here that she, even though this is the year, it's 34 to 36. So 2 years were between her leaving the orphanage and her first concert, right? 2 years had passed, but she is relatively new to the hero agency. One thing that is, and I don't really want to put it under unanswered because the unanswered are the questions I'm excited about, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it under the nah, is kind of the timeline of the 2 years. It's not made very clear. And I'm going to go ahead and say this because I meant to say it in the intro and Be Happy had told me about it. And Be Happy has explained that there are PVs that were released before the series and that they give extra context and information about the characters. I have a very jaded opinion of those, because I'm kind of like, I don't know if any of you have ever watched Red Letter Media. Red Letter Media, they're like a group of filmmakers, like indie filmmakers that have done like review series for like a decade. But they said something one time related to like the Marvel movies and all the extra stuff. They were like, if you can't put it in the actual content itself and you're relying upon your audience to seek an outside source to find pertinent information, then you've not done a good job. And so I don't really want to, I told Be Happy, I don't really want to watch the PVs. One, because I feel like they're spoilers. They're going to spoil me to content, character stuff. I don't know. And two, I feel like if I'm going to react to the PVs, it's going to be at the very end of the season. And then I'll react to them all at once and tell you all and be like, oh, this related to that episode? Why couldn't we have found that out in that episode? And just like go through and see what I missed. But I don't want to be like spoiled. And I'm like, if it was really important information, you should have put it in the actual show, not in a PV that not everyone is going to have access to. I'm a blind reactor. I should be able to react blindly to what is presented to me, not have to seek out an alternate source to get important information. And I don't know if the PVs contain important information, but I feel like the timeline of these 2 years was not very well, it wasn't very well explained. Like, I feel like in Lin Ling's arc and Yang Chang's arc, I got a very good sense of when things were happening. And when there was a time skip, you understood exactly what had happened in that time frame. And even if you weren't told, you kind of got an idea by the context clues of the episode. This episode, the pacing of it is so off the rails until they get to like the explanation of the luck powers that you don't really know. Like, how long was she busking? How long has she been at the hero organization? It doesn't seem like she's been there very long, because he said, oh, you've already gotten familiar with everyone. You don't tell somebody that if they've been there a year. That's like something you tell somebody if they've been there like a week or two. So there's just not a good understanding of the timeline, and I think they could have made that better. So she's like, I might have been too shy. She says, I only just met them. So she's only just met the other heroes in the association. So she's not been there that long. That's something to keep in mind. We need to point out that she has not been in the hero agency long. We need to keep that in mind, because that's going to come up in some things later that I'm like, So he's like, oh, ha, ha, I'm not villainous at all. I do think that J-Man, we're going to call him J-Man. J-Man and Liu. I do think one thing that I liked, and we're going to kind of put it over here as well, because the stuff with them is unanswered, and Huck, you're going to put that toy up on that shelf, is that there is this kind of morally ambiguous notion of fear and its connection to J-Man and Liu. Because again, the guy that Liu went off to talk with was talking about fear and relating to the Spotlight organization. So if you told me that Queen was secretly working for the Spotlight organization and that this DOS agency is like a cover for it or a cover for a facet of it, I wouldn't be surprised. We can wait and see what happens. I kind of like the idea, though, that Liu, because Liu has seemed like a really good person, like a morally good person throughout this arc, it would be kind of cool if we found out that, yeah, he's morally good, but he's also working for the Spotlight organization. Like, that would be kind of cool. I would like that. I would think that that makes his character more interesting and intriguing and not, you know, it seems like that adds a layer of complexity to his character. So, and we don't really get a lot about them this episode, which is okay. We'll see. So he's like, let me show you something. And so then he says, this is the new costume and equipment we have prepared for you. Okay, so we have the idea of, and we're gonna put this just here for now, the hero status for Lucky Cyan. I think it's very dark and twisted that they didn't just let her be an idol. I was like, from a marketing standpoint, and from a marketing standpoint and from a business standpoint, this was kind of a weird thing to me in this episode, because just from her having all of these concerts and selling all of these tickets, she's doing really well for herself. She's clearly making money for the organization. And I know they're a hero organization, but it's like, why would you want her to become this cookie cutter like hero that everyone else has when you have the opportunity to kind of do something that none of the other agencies are doing, with have her be an idol that can use her powers to uplift others through her song and concerts and like use it for that influencing? Why you've got something unique and cool that she can offer that other heroes can't. Why would you suddenly want her to go to the streets like Batman and start fighting crime with a guitar bow? Like, that was such a weird choice. I'm like, if I were an agency that was a well-run agency, I wouldn't want to do that. That one is a liability. Have you seen, Huckleberry, what are you doing, bud? No. Have you seen, like, how these heroes fare out in the real world? There's a pretty big turnover rate. Or seems to be. Maybe Esol hadn't turned over yet, so maybe that wasn't as apparent at the moment. But I don't know. It felt like this was I felt bad for Lucky, because they're like, here's your special boots, and here's this guitar that turns into a bow and arrow. And he's like, not only is the sound exceptional, and not only is the guitar exceptional in sound quality, it's equipped with the latest technology that will accommodate and amplify your abilities. So we're going to put right here the tech for Cyan. We're going to put that under here, and we're going to go into more detail about that later. But I mean, it's just kind of disturbing that they took, again, this whole arc. What makes me so mad and makes me feel frustrated for Cyan on her behalf is that everywhere she goes, everyone is just using her. They are just using her for her luck, for her abilities. It's just very easy to see that, because her luck kind of makes it all manifest very openly and transparently, right? And so it kind of sucks. I'm like, she went from being used at the orphanage to being, the only time she was really allowed to be herself was on the streets busking and being self-sufficient. And now they're like, here's all these cool tools you can use, but she doesn't even want those. And I kind of felt, to go to this tech thing, I kind of felt bad, because there were some dropped, we're going to put it over here, like dropped plot lines, or elements, dropped plot or elements that I thought would make a difference. So the guitar was one. The guitar had like all this meaning behind it. It was a symbol between her and Lo, and it had this connection, and she like bandaged it up. We talked last week about how it was kind of symbolic, and this episode we never see the guitar again. The guitar doesn't even matter. It's nothing. Did it matter at all? Apparently not. And I kind of felt bad because even if the whole idea of the guitar being a symbol of her and Lowe's kind of friendship, the moment she kind of sells out, you know, in Lowe's mind, she sells out and gets the new guitar, I thought that that would become a plot point, that would come up in the conversation. No, it's just dropped. Like, we don't care about the guitar anymore. Guitar, whatever. It was a plot point last week. We don't have time for it. We're going to abandon it. That's kind of sad, right? It's kind of sad that it was just abandoned. And she's like, you know, are you satisfied with your new character? Now, are we surprised that, once again, we're 10 episodes in, and so far, every hero is a cultivated persona that is not quite true to themselves, but is cultivated by a corporation sponsoring them? Is this all a giant metaphor for how influencers and celebrities are the slaves of corporate sponsorships? Probably in part. It is a thematic element. Did you get that yet? Have you figured it out? That's a thematic element. I feel bad for Cyan, and I'm not, but this is the thing. I'm not surprised that this is a plot element for her character. I'm not surprised that the CEO of this hero agency is wanting her to sell out. You know why I'm not surprised? Because every single CEO and every single hero up until this point has gone through the exact same character plot line in terms of that. So I just want something different. I want a hero to not go through that. I would love to see if Queen was in charge of her own autonomy. I would love to see that. And I know if that's not the case, and that's the whole point, but it's like, it would be really cool to see somebody that's really thriving off the system and to see them really benefiting from the system and being themselves and being their own person. It would be kind of cool. I mean, Lin Ling's probably the closest to that as the commoner, but we didn't get to see what the aftermath was. We can only assume that he's going to end up in the same boat as all of them, unless he doesn't as Lin Ling. I don't know. We don't know yet. But I'm not surprised at this point in the story. You know, at least not by this plot line. Like, this is tale as old as time. The audience prefer... Now, this part was interesting. Audiences prefer more independent, self-sufficient women these days. I wanted to get into this because there's this concept that I like about the audience, and kind of like, I guess what they're describing is kind of a girl boss mentality. Like they're into independent, self-sufficient women, which ironically is what she was in the streets. We have to get rid of your weak, passive image as the sacred maiden. The irony is that she's gone from being the weak, passive, sacred maiden that the dean was controlling to now the girl boss that the corporation is controlling. And I do like that theme because it kind of ties to, there's a big movement in the US online about kind of like the pick-me's, like pick-me girls that kind of become in this alt-right pipeline, and they kind of become spokespeople for conservative groups, like conservative extremist groups. But at the same time, they're supposed to represent this like powerful woman figure, but they are very much controlled by the patriarchy and very much controlled by the conservative extremists that are just putting them out there as this representation, but they don't have any actual power. So I do think that was really cool that they kind of touch on this, the idea of her like not, you know, we'll create this new image with her as a battle angel with a love of music. And, you know, that very much is scary because what they're doing is, this is kind of the prototype for what's happened with Nice. Like Miss J, Miss J could be Ken's sister, the way that they look, or could be Ken's lover for all we know. But I feel like what they're trying to do here in crafting her as this specific type of hero and cultivating her into it is exactly what happens with Nice. Like the Treatment organization is like, okay, we'll make the perfect hero and we'll cultivate it, and the fans' trust will form it for us. And it seems like this is the prototype of that, where they're trying to do that with Lucky Cyan and making her into something, and then the people would get on board with it and would cement it, you know, the courage to chase her dreams, who brings fortune through her songs. I mean, I honestly think if you had just crafted her as Lucky Cyan, and what I was trying to say earlier was if you just crafted her as Lucky Cyan, the idol that brought fortune through her songs, and just let her go to concerts and people could go to concerts for good luck, you could have done fine with that. But making her a battle angel seems like not only a little extreme, but also kind of cliche with all the other heroes out there. Like, be innovative, DOS. Do things a little against the grain, DOS, you know? And she's like, Angel, battle. And she's like, what is the guitar doing? And like, what? It's equipped with the newest damage amplifying technology. It's a guitar and your custom weapon. And she's like, okay, I want you to keep this in mind, where she has no, we're going to put in quotation marks, no battle XP at all. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Because then his thing, she's like, I don't understand why we're doing this. And they're like, oh, we've set up training sessions for you. This doesn't seem like it was very long before her concert, though. They're like, you can transform you into a real hero in a short amount of time. And she's like, a real hero? Yes, but you must become aware of you must remember one thing. Nobody can mention your past experiences. Because if if you did anything in the past, it can catch up to you, right? I feel like we see that coin in the intro has to do with Lucky. But yeah. So, sure, if you want to make the argument that her training sessions allowed her to transform into a super battle angel just like Lin Ling transformed into Nice, you could make that argument. But I feel like with Lin Ling and Nice, it was physical changes. It was him like bulking up. It was him looking like him. It was all of that. I don't feel... And that took weeks and months to have done. She becomes literally freaking Legolas in the span of a night. And I was like, what? So anyway, we're going to get to that. But yeah, so we have the concert. Like, she just gets done with the concert. This is literally after, I feel like also, no, she's in these clothes. I don't feel like it was much long, unless she's like one of the cartoon things where the anime donghua things where they wear the same outfit every day. I'm like, did she... Again, timeline. How long had it been since that conversation? How long? You couldn't show us any of the training sessions? We couldn't see any of that because we had no time. Pacing. We're going to put that in big, bold letters. Pacing. I'm going to go back to this and just do this. Pacing. We didn't see any of the training sessions because we didn't have time, but we don't know how long it was between the training sessions and her joining the agency and her first concert and meeting the heroes, and then how long was she busking? Pacing. We didn't see any of that. It's just all left to your imagination to figure it out, but there's not enough context to really figure it out. So whatever. Anyway, this guy probably got fired because he took her to the orphanage. He took her to the orphanage. He's like, well, that's against the rules. If the boss finds out, I'm toast. And all she says is pretty please. That's all it takes, apparently, in this world. Dangerous mission, putting a hero at risk, could have got fired. She did say pretty please. Maybe it would have been beneficial if he had just, like, if he had asked, being like, I'll do it for you if you give me this lucky thing. If you tell me, like, what the lottery numbers are, or like something like that. If he had offered her a trade-off and been like, I'll take you to the orphanage if you do this for me. That would have made sense, and you could have done, like, a joke with it or something funny about a trade-off with her luck involved. You could have done something with that, but instead he just takes her there. So it's like, okay. So, part of my questions on here, things that are, like, plot lines that are dropped. Calamity's ability. What ability? Don't know. Never find out. Does it matter? Guess not. He used the guitar and had the same thing happen when he played the guitar. Should be a sign of a power. Who cares? Not important, apparently. So I was like, okay. We're not going to do a Calamity Corner because it's all spread out this wild episode. So she gets taken to the orphanage, taken back there. I have so much to say. So she gets taken back to the orphanage and she's like, I'll be right back. So what we find out is that she did not, in the 2 years, go to the orphanage. Liu went, which we're going to talk about with Liu. That answers some questions. Liu went, we're going to talk about him and the dean. He gave the dean this file. We're going to talk about that, which again paints Liu in a little bit more of a morally gray light than I had originally intended, which I'm for that. I'm for that. It makes me more curious about Liu's character. So he had gone to the orphanage. We're going to talk about some other things about what he said and whatever, but we do find out that the dean's power is the one that can make people zombies. So we do find out about that. But I'm going to put a caveat on this, that I'm going to put it also under the it doesn't get explained. Like, his power kind of makes sense. Somebody's going to be like, in the PV, you find out. I don't want to know in the PV. I want to know in the episode itself. What was his power? What does it do? How does it magnify? Does it absorb bad luck? Does it amplify it? What happens? It has no connection to Calamity because Calamity never does anything. So what was it? Doesn't matter. So I'm just like, it's a bad power of a bad guy. We don't have to know what it means. I didn't like that. I was like, if you're going to tell us his power and make it this zombie thing, she immediately knew what the solution was. She's like, well, if I shoot those spores, I'm like, what if it didn't work, girl? What if you killed them people with your arrows? It was, I didn't like it. I wanted to see what his powers were, like some kind of explanation. Like, how did she know where to shoot the arrows at when she's never fired a bow and arrow before in her life? I was like, okay. But anyway, so she goes here to the orphanage, to the doorway, goes to open it, and the dean somehow knows that she's there. Somehow the dean knows that she's there. How the dean, I guess he has cameras. I guess he can see the car coming, but did he just like run from his office and like run across the yard? And can he teleport? Can he magically get there? How did he get behind her? That makes no sense. That's like, okay, sure. He was just patrolling at night. And he's like, he was oddly calm to show up and see her there. He was surprisingly calm. What the great hero suddenly feels compelled by her conscience to reminisce upon the past. And so then, what does he say there? Or did you come here to insult me? And here's the thing. She like runs back. I'm like, girl, what? You went all this way to come to this orphanage to see it, and the moment the guy that, granted, nearly kidnapped you, so I understand why she would want to distance herself, but like, girl, you came here to see what? To see Lo, but you think he's dead, but you don't think he's dead? So she runs back, and then he's like, you have the gall to come back here. Ever since you left, people stopped coming. Which, this place became desolate. Which, look, I know they related to her powers, and which we're going to talk about, but they relate to her powers, and we're just going to put it here. So, which was one of my questions. So her luck is at the price of someone's misfortune. And that's part of it. That's how he frames it at the beginning here, which I do think it's a cool concept to personify luck, to personify the idea that someone will win and thus someone will lose. The idea of putting that power into a human form is interesting. The problem with that is that most of the actions surrounding her in this episode and in the previous episode were not because of just her existence. It was because of the people trying to greedily prey upon her luck and her ability through their own selfishness. So I felt like he's like, well, this place became desolate after you left. And this part I kind of am okay with because, yeah, she was there, all the luck gathered around. The moment she left, she took the luck with her, and thus it became desolate without her. I get that. And that part makes sense, and that part works of why she would feel bad when she hears this. He's like, the children don't have enough to eat. These difficult years we've endured. It's only been 2, bitch. It's only been 2 years. We're still in year 36. It's been these difficult years. It's been 24 months. Like, you act like it's been a decade. It's been 2 years. And also, there's all of this, like, a lot of this is, like, because of the greed, because of the selfishness, and because of the neglect of others. Like, this Dean here is like, well, it's because of you that nobody's getting fed. I'm like, bitch, go out and make them food. Go do a fundraiser. Get off your ass and do something. Like, what? I don't like the idea that she's getting blamed because of their inability to do shit without her. Like, that's not her responsibility. Like, she should not have to deal with that. That's not her job. Like, go do something. And I'm sure that the point is that that's a representation of that, and you're supposed to feel mad about it. But she's like, she's like, I'd be willing to give everything I could to the orphanage. I could go discuss and we could do a fundraiser. Now, I do agree with him getting on to her about this, being like, you've had all this time and you're just now trying to find this random solution. Like, you didn't care before, but now you do. I do agree with him there. It's good to call that out. He's like, you didn't come in the middle of the night to give us gifts. Like, I do think that he brings up a solid point in terms of that, being like, did you come here to help us? Or did you just come here to see what was going on? But she's like, they told me Lo is no longer here. Okay. I was like, what? One of my biggest complaints from last episode is that she knew this place was dangerous. She knew this place had a person in charge of it that was a danger to Lo, because he was a danger to her. And she knew that Lo was in trouble. And the moment that did she just ask? And she didn't ask to go back. She didn't ask to see it. And if they told her no, then girl, I would have turned down the hero organization and been like, I'm going to go back to busking. Bye. I'll find a different organization. Like, girl, why didn't you play that smart? Why didn't you do that? Like, what? And the short answer is because the writer made her dumb enough to not do it. That's the answer. Like, because it's like, well, why didn't you go, girl? Like, what? Why did you? And also, if Liu came in there and told her that he was no longer there, I guess she would believe Liu. So I guess so. But I'm like, girl, you didn't double check? You didn't do any of that? Okay, did you ask where he was? And if they didn't tell you, you didn't try to find answers yourself? Because she's like, I don't believe he's dead. It's like, you refuse to bring your own good, and that brings misery on others. And so when he's like, I suggest you forget about him, here's my thing. This is also part of that. Why did Lo settle for what the dean says here? Why did he do that? Like, I guess because of what the dean told him, which we're going to go back to that, which we're going to get to that. But like, he's like, I suggest you forget about him. Like, if I were Lo on the other side of the door, and Lo's character, this was such a weird character moment for him. Lo's character has always been very forward and upfront. Why didn't he burst through the door and ask her himself and talk? The answer is because the plot would have been over. So we can't have that happen. So we have to write him in a weird character moment, not doing what would make sense in that moment. The dean is a liar. Like, the dean is manipulative. Why are you going along with what he's saying? Why don't you ask her herself? And she just said that they told him when Lo, I don't think it's reasonable or makes any sense for Lo to be mad. He heard this whole conversation. It makes no sense for him to be mad at her for not being at the orphanage because she just said, they told me he wasn't here. I refuse to believe he's dead. Why don't you stand out and then prove to her that you're not dead and ask her yourself? Like, what? And there's not enough moments of character development for Lo to explain that to us. Like, we don't get to know more about what he's thinking other than having this moment. It's like, he would only become a burden for you. And so that's basically him admitting that he's still around. Like, with your current identity, he would become a burden for you. Like, that means that he's still there. He was supposed to be her best friend for like 5 years. And you didn't go after him? You didn't like fight to find him? You mentioned him at the concert like he was the best thing that ever happened to you, but you didn't take the time to go look for him or fight to be next to him? I'm sorry. I've read a lot of romance stories. I've read a lot of action stories with characters that weren't even in romantic relationships that fought harder to get to each other than these two. Like, what? That is so bonkers to me. That is so bonkers to me. That she was just like, oh, I guess I'll just go back. I don't know. I mean, the orphanage not needing his pit. Again, that is just such a weird plot element. And then he's like, there, you heard everything. I'm like, go back. I'm like, why didn't you go out? What? And so then let's get into this. Let's get into what he actually told Lo. The only survivor from the flight that your parents were on. So, okay. The truth is revealed that Lo's parents, again, Powers, Calamity, who cares? Nobody cares about that. Parents were on the plane that crashed. My thing is, what unanswered things? So what about Liu researching the plane? I guess we'll go back to that with her luck ability as we come to find out. I guess we'll go back to that. But so this part here was kind of weak for me. And I'm going to tell you why. Because Lo has grown up with this woman. He knows that she was like an infant when she was on the plane. Him getting mad at her because, I mean, it's understandable he's mad that his parents died on that plane crash. But rather than directing his anger at like, why did the plane crash? Like kind of like what Liu brought up in episode 8. Like the plane crashed and no heroes were around to save it. Why? I mean, I guess you could say that we are assuming a lot as the audience. We could assume that Lo thinks like others do, and they're like, well, why didn't Cyan save the people on the plane if she's a hero? And I'm like, but that doesn't make sense because she wasn't a hero. She was a toddler. Why are you mad at a toddler who had no control over her abilities? Makes no sense. And the only way it could possibly make sense is if the director or Dean is using his like negativity powers to like influence him, but because we don't have enough explanation of his powers, we don't know for sure if that's it, so it comes across as weird writing. So I'm like, but for him to get mad, it felt very contrived. It felt like, of course he has to have this emotion around him. Of course he has to think that way. Also, something else that's just abandoned is Calamity's injuries. Where were they from? They couldn't have been from the crash 2 years ago when she escaped. They couldn't be from that. I doubt they're from that. Your arm ain't in a sling for 2 years from a car crash. Sorry, that's not how bodies work. So, has he been abused by the Dean? We don't get any explanation of that. And then if he was abused by the Dean, why is he even listening to this man? Why is he in a room by himself? Calamity's injuries and situation are a completely dropped plot point that means nothing in this episode. And I was really hoping we'd backtrack. We didn't backtrack at all. From where I thought I was like, okay, we'll get explanations this episode. Nope. Sure did not. Instead, and so we get the idea, and this is the part that kind of like annoys me, is that he says her luck comes at a price. Which, first of all, he's the one that told her that luck isn't perfect. And he's been talked about as being a calamity with bad luck his whole life. So why would you get mad at somebody who had no control over such things? Wouldn't you know firsthand what that feeling is like? So then it goes here to be like, isn't she the good luck charm seller? My mom spent a fortune on her. Well, that's not Cyan's fault. That's not Cyan's fault that your mom was dumb and spent money on her. That's not her fault. That's your mom's fault. Your mom was dumb. That's not her fault. And then it's like, is the commenter above referring to the scam orphanage in District 70? The misfortune of others is the price. So I'm like, is he assuming? We don't know because we don't get any internal monologue. Do we know that is he thinking his whole life of misfortune in District 70 is because of this random girl? It would make sense if Cyan just walked around and like everything around her sprouted up and was, if we'd had more time, and if her abilities were something like everything within a 5-foot radius of her is benefited with all this amazing luck. Like plants bloom, things are great, and people are like prospering. And then if we were shown a direct contrasting butterfly effect where 2 cities over, like a building just bursts into flames, and it's in direct contrast to her luck. If we built her luck up like a butterfly effect, that could have been really cool. And it would have been something that was out of her control. That it was literally her ability's fault. Her ability was causing this luck that was causing a direct contrasting price to be paid in another location. That would be cool. That would make sense. That would make it more understandable why people would be upset about her abilities. But here, when people are like, my mom gave you money, and Cyan's like, okay, well, she didn't have to do that. She didn't have to buy my good luck charms. She didn't have to come to the orphanage and prey on me. That's kind of their own choice. Like when you add that the people that were buying into her luck have ownership of their actions, then it's not her fault anymore. It's these people's fault. It's their own fault for doing it. So your blaming of Cyan kind of becomes hollow because there's nothing that she was really doing. Except, yeah, he was using her at the orphanage. But, why was she at an orphanage? Why aren't you blaming the dean? Why aren't you looking at the adult predator that was preying upon her? And if that's a social commentary, maybe that is the social commentary. And if that is it, if the social commentary is on how the predators are not being targeted, but it's the prey that is, then that's a really good message. And that's a really good thing to point out of how messed up that is. And it's good that they do that. But I don't think the show goes far enough to illustrate that that's really what it is. I think they're just trying to create melodrama about her being like, I don't think we've ever seen anything about her parents. Like, if the show was trying to make a statement about predators and how they get away with things while their victims are blamed, then I would really appreciate that in the show. But I don't think that's what it's doing. I think it's just creating this melodrama of it's literally becomes The Lion King 2, where they all look at, oh gosh, what is Scar's son's name? Not Kira. Is it Kira? What is Scar's son's name? Hold on. Scar's son is what? Kovu! Kovu! It's like in The Lion King 2, where they all look at Kovu and they're like, not one of us! Like, that's literally it! Kovu didn't do anything! He just gets guilt by association. Cyan has guilt by association for her powers, but she didn't actually do anything. So, I feel like what could have been a really cool commentary is just for the sake of melodrama. They're like, is she an orphan? And they're like, I did the math. From her age, she entered the orphanage in commission. So we do get confirmation of this. Commission year 23, which was, in fact, 13 years prior. Okay? So if she were 18, then she was 5 when she entered the orphanage. That's so young. Like, why are we blaming a 5-year-old? And it says, I heard from my friend at the airline, the casualties list didn't match the manifest. So she's lucky. Maybe she survived that. Maybe it's her. What is the essence of good fortune? And it's the misfortune of others. I mean, that concept of good fortune is the misfortune of others has been around in media and in literature and in narratives for centuries, millenniums. The concept that one person's fate is another person's misfortune. One person's fortune is another person's misfortune. Again, like I said, it's kind of cool that the show, I'm not dogging the show for manifesting it in a persona. I think Cyan's a really cool character. I just feel like it's missing the boat on a few possibilities it could have, right? So, okay, it says if you land a job, someone else is employed because of you, right? Well, that's kind of a logical fallacy because that's a logical fallacy because there's so many other types of jobs and there's so many other, like, I feel like that dumbs it down a little too much. Like saying like, well, you got a job, which means someone else didn't. Well, yeah, no shit. But also there's like thousands and millions of jobs and different qualifications and it's not that simple. There's different criteria. Like, yeah, maybe that one person didn't get the job, but they also might not have been qualified. So then that adds a whole other layer to it. You can't just assume that that's something so simple because it's not so simple. No. And then they're like, well, you're lucky if you find money on the door, but doesn't that mean someone else lost money? Again, that's also a logical fallacy because you don't know if that person intentionally left it. You don't know if that person dropped it. You don't know if that person had it stolen. You don't know like the context. So you can't assume. You're oversimplifying something that is a bit more complicated. And they're like the recent ranking match. Now this part I thought was interesting. Let's talk about the recent ranking match. So Queen lost a critical match. So we have two different people here that look like stakeholders for different organizations. Right? So Queen at the Heroes Tournament, she lost to a random nobody. That's X. That's X. So Queen is interesting. I don't know what her superhero looks like. She has like a trident. So Queen lost to X, because that's X. He's from the poster. He has the glasses and the slick back hair. What's his deal? Who is he? Who be him? So yeah, also her trident and mask kind of look like Esau a little bit. So what happened there? Interesting. The biggest dark horse in this year's hero ranking. Okay. So then it says luck and sucker. Interesting. Okay, but then it says, do they think that that's because what it shows that she herself is lucky, but everyone connected to her is unlucky? But again, that's, I'd be very interested to see if Queen ended up making that the reason why she lost. Again, because the pacing of this episode is so crazy, we don't see if Queen blamed it on Lucky. That would have been interesting. Did she blame her misfortune on that, or did she let the cards fall? How did she react to this accusation? We don't know. Not shown to us. Who knows? But it's not like everyone in the world could have good luck. Her supporters should be careful. She'll steal your luck, and then you'll be the ones who suffer. Whoever goes to her concert is going to get bad luck. Which, I would say that's a nah moment, but honestly, that kind of rings true to real life, where rumors like that, people can say stuff about somebody's reputation, and oh, don't go to that concert because it presents this, it'll make you have this persona about you, this reputation. I could see that. So that part is fine, where there's been all these controversies in the press. A good number of former supporters have even lashed out. And this causes an aura of anxiety and negative emotions to spread. And then that's when we have the people that are out on the side of there being like, the cause of misfortune. They're like, burn it, burn the orphanage. And they draw the little pig on the side. They're like, what are you guys doing? The bad luck guys are coming. So, interesting. You know what? It's interesting. Again, we don't find out what the dean's powers are, so we can't know if it's just a manifestation of negative energy or not. We don't really get that noted. But it says orphanage food poisoning incident again. Another food poison incident. The third severe accident last month with water quality. Excessive heavy metals found in tap water. Is the heavy metals to do with his abilities? Because we immediately cut to the mercury looking substance coming from the stuff around him. So again, they're all this stuff talks about the orphanage and everything becoming cursed, but we don't ever get because the other places she went to, the town square, it seems fine. So I feel it needed more time to get more explanation, because if the orphanage had indeed become cursed, then we should have cut to the busking area that she'd been to and seen the foundation cracked, or the water fountain went dry, or the people's businesses around, the windows bust, or something crazy happened. We needed to see that in comparison, because otherwise this just looks like it's the dean's fault. The dean's manifests all this negative energy and it caused it to happen. So it was kind of his own problem and he's just blaming it on her. There needed to be a little bit more. All these things in recent years that have been happening. It's not just the orphanage. Everyone, but this says everyone should avoid the entirety of District 70. And I guess we kind of see some places on fire and stuff like that. But they're my my friend passed by there a few days ago and randomly ran into a tree. But again, we needed to go back and see like the busking area, right? It's too unlucky to be a coincidence and forget passing by there. I ate some fruits from that area and had diarrhea for 3 days. That sucks. But yeah, I wish we'd gone back to see the actual locations. So they blame the orphanage for the problems, which, you know, is kind of the orphanage being blamed. An orphanage being blamed for all the Again, that also is kind of weird too, because so you're blaming her for sapping the luck out of places, but then you're blaming the orphanage where she's not anymore for existing. So, you know, I'm surprised. I don't know why people wouldn't support the orphanage, being like, oh man, you guys are victims from Lucky. We want to support you. Instead, they're like, oh, you're victims from Lucky. And it's like, which is it? You know, that's just so, I don't know. It's a weird choice. Weird choices. The orphanage wouldn't be in this situation if not for her. And so then he blames her for his problems, when I'm like, you're the one that brought her in and used her. It's kind of your own fault, honestly. Again, we got to see the front of his outfit for a hot second. For a hot second, I wanted to see more. Why couldn't you show us more? So then we cut back to Liu visiting him and saying that Mickey is about to sign Lucky Cyan. So Mickey is the J guy. Why has he got a J? His company is called DOS. Why does he have a J? So maybe Mickey is him. Okay. I don't know. Make it make sense. So as a primary hero trainee, so being trained, what gives him the right? She's mine. He's like, here, running away from here means she no longer is under your control. Again, Liu not checking in on the other guy, not checking in on Lo. I'd hoped initially she would be able to live a quiet life here unknown to the world. That's why I placed her in your care. And he's like, but you use... And so he says, all right. At this point, the least you could do is help me with one last thing. This part is interesting. So Liu took her there originally, knowing about her surviving the plane crash, maybe having theories of why that was, but putting her at the orphanage so she wouldn't be found. But what's interesting is he doesn't get on to the dean and say, this is kind of your fault because you exploited her. Would have been nice to bring up. Would have been nice to bring up while you were there. Like, hey, jackass, you exploited her. And he's like, help me with one last thing. Hide any information about her. And I'm like, that's kind of shady. That's actually kind of shady. I don't blame the dean for getting kind of mad at that. He's like, wait, you mean you've kind of screwed me over too? Y'all have. This is all your fault. Yeah. Which honestly, the whole Vane thing happens to Lo too. So is that his ability manifesting in Lo? Because yeah, again, she's like, if it wasn't for you, my husband wouldn't have left me. I'm like, well, that's your own fault. You're the reason your husband left you, not Lucky. Nope. They're like, my son wouldn't have lost his job. Nope, not my leg. What does they say here? My leg wouldn't have gotten injured. All these things are things that happen to the people. These aren't her fault. This is not her problem. Anyway, and the fact is they're not worried about anybody's, what's kind of disgusting, but also, again, something I do like about this episode is the hero society. Like, we get more into their background and the fact that they don't care about anybody that's being involved in this. They just care about the fact that her tickets are getting refunded and the fact that her ranking is going down. Do we cut our losses? And he's like, no. And she's like, well, we could organize a press conference and I'll tell everybody the truth. And they're like, well, everybody already knows the truth. They already know about the rumors and about you being the sole survivor of the plane crash. They already know your backstory. He says truth is the basis for people's judgment, but what right is right and wrong is subjective. I mean, that's a theory. That's a thought. She's like, well, I could change their opinions. And he says that's impossible. He's like pretty bipolar in this scene because at first he's like, no, you don't get to get involved. Nothing you say or do is going to mean anything whatsoever. And then he's like, well, but I'm going to ask you this question. I'm like, dude, can you explain why you were born with the power of good fortune? And she's like, I don't know. And that's when Queen comes in. Now, again, Queen looks amazing. Love her. Like, she has a very Griffith look to her, I'll say. I love it. Look good for her. Also, with her, like, earrings and everything, with the black and the white motif, she has a very similar black and white motif as X does. I'm like, are you two in cahoots secretly, or are you going to end up secretly in cahoots? 7 years later. Lucky number 7. And then 7 years later, where we are in the current timeline. Coincidence? I think not. But yeah, she's like, I wasn't able to bring you guys any good luck. Here's the thing. The way that they phrased it, you would think that Queen losing to X would have made her mad. And the way that they framed it as it being Lucky's fault, you would have think she would have gone along with it to save face. She doesn't. In fact, she praises Lucky and says that your singing gave me power and you brought me out of my depression. So she does fine. She doesn't blame Lucky at all. She's totally chill with Lucky. So she's okay with Lucky. And then immediately, once Queen's okay, Mickey, or whatever his name is, immediately changes his tune. He's like, oh, you're totally all right. Well, that's good to see. And what's the silver lining? And she says, the center of the discourse is the plane crash. It's opened the collective wounds in everyone's hearts. And Cyan's experience in the accident and why she possesses the power of fortune. So, Liu says, a real hero. So we go back to that day. He's like, don't you get started again. And he's like, wait. And then he gives this to him from way back then. This was a recording from aboard the flight. Now, the recording. You are an investigative journalist. You are someone who doesn't trust a lot of people. You're trying to find the truth. You're being super sleuth. You're handling all this stuff, trying to get to the bottom of things. You didn't make a copy of this? You didn't make a copy of that recording? And not only did you not make a copy of that recording, you just gave it away to the dean of this orphanage for him to hide for you, assuming he would do nothing with it? What? That's such a weird thing. Why would you not make a copy? And she's like, well, I'll go look for it. And I'm like, this guy wasn't going to let you do 2 things 5 seconds ago. But she's like, the truth belongs to me, so I'm going to go do it. I guess. And then the boss is like, she's about to go on her own again. Aren't you going to stop her? And he's like, let her. This is our best chance at turning the tables. I'm like, you were mad at her and basically going to imprison her inside the tower for a second ago. And now you're like, yeah, you go out. I guess if you die, it's okay. That'll let us sweep up things real quick. What? Okay. We're just going to assume it's okay. He had a change of heart in the 5 seconds Queen was there. Maybe that's Queen's ability. Maybe Queen has the ability to make people go along with whatever she wants. Maybe that's her ability. Maybe she can turn the tables. I don't know. I also think it's interesting that they talk about her having silver linings and then X has the gold coin, silver and gold. Am I shipping Queen and X? Am I crack shipping them right now? I might be crack shipping them. I might be. But okay, whatever. He lets them go, lets her do what she wants. So she goes off. Now, the skateboarding thing, the roller skating, that has all been prefaced. She has been able to do that since she was a kid. Her and Lo have been skating together. I'm sad that wasn't brought back. We don't do anything with that. But she goes to find these zombies and everything on them. All these zombies are affected. I guess they're affected throughout the entire town. I guess, again, we don't get an explanation of the dean's abilities, so we don't know the range of it. We don't know how far it goes. We don't know how it extends. It's very abstract. We don't get a lot of info about it. She has her little smoke bombs that she uses as she skates past. I'm willing to forgive this. This is all fine. This is all good. You know what? Maybe but the truck! The truck! This is when the show jumped the shark. This was the beginning of the jump the shark moment for the episode because the callback last week was so good. It was so clever to set up the man falling asleep, like when he was unloading things, and for him to be the catalyst that let her escape. That part was very clever. I love that. This is jumping the shark. This is just absolute ham tomfoolery. The guy that's at the sleep for the thing, like, how was he affected? Did he lose his truck driving job? No, he didn't. He's still truck driving. Like, that's just hammy. That's just so camp. It's so camp and silly. I love it because it's silly and it's hilarious. I felt like we were in Resident Evil. Resident Evil movies get so hammy and camp. I mean, I love it, but what? What? Also, suddenly she can do backflips and jump onto this. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. With Isol, with the Commoner, with Nice, it shows that she gains these abilities because the people around her that believe in her manifest those abilities. They believe she can do those things. So like Nice, for example, everybody's like, well, Nice can fly. So the people believe Nice can fly, and so he can. And so whenever Isol does things, the people believe Isol can do those things. They believe Yan Chong is Isol, so thus he can. Here, you would think the opposite would be occurring, that the people are mad because of her good luck abilities, so it would be somewhat draining her abilities, or that the people would be like, I don't want her to have luck. I don't want her to have good luck. Let her be swallowed in misfortune. And then she would start to see that manifest upon her, right? That would have been interesting. Instead, she suddenly has superpowers, but you've taken no time in the episode to establish people believing she has those powers. When did she become a top gymnast? When did she become a gold star level archer? Like, when did this happen? You've taken the time with other heroes to show those things manifesting. So now when it's just there, it just feels like sloppy writing is what it feels like. And this part here with the Grand Theft Auto, with like we're family here. It's like Fast and the Furious. Yeah, so then what does she do here? She does this thing where she like spreads out this power and uses this Sailor Moon technique and blitzes over there and has these angel wings. When did you learn to do this? Why are you not freaking out about... Even Sailor Moon was freaked out the first time she used her abilities. She was like, Luna, I can do this. And Luna's like, of course you can, Sailor Moon. I'm doing like the Deke version where she's British. But yeah, like, when did it have the ability to part the cars like Moses? When did Cyan get Moses abilities? She went from being Jesus to Moses in 3.5. She went from having Jesus powers to Moses powers within the span of an episode. We regressed this episode. What? That is so batshit bonkers. That makes no sense. So batshit. So it says emergency on the highway. Also, what emergency on the highway? Emergency situation, a highway intersection. Like, there's one truck. What? Camp. So then we have, okay, I do really like this scene where it shows Mickey and Liu. They're both drinking out of their very villainous martini glasses. This is so camp! This is this hammy camp. I cannot take this seriously, and I need you all to understand this. This is camp. This is airplane levels of camp. Like, I do really love the fact that they are not facing each other, and the fact that Liu is drinking out of the evil martini glass makes me view his character a little bit more sinisterly. He's like, I never would have thought a short speech during a concert would cause such a mess. I'm like, well, you could have solved this if you had, I don't know, let her go see her friend and not told her he was dead. That's kind of your own fault. It even caused fear to erupt in District 70. And so here's the interesting thing. So again, I don't know if Liu is truly like has drank the villain's nectar yet, or if he's just like he's dancing with the devil. But I think Mickey is kind of in on it. He's like, fear has always lurked. Cyan has merely given it an opportunity. Yeah, and he's like, people are quick to believe in good fortune. The fear of misfortune is the easiest to stoke within the hearts of these people. It seems things won't stay hidden for long after this. Isn't that perfect? Good fortune sometimes smiles upon those of us who are well prepared. So that to me makes it seem like Liu is knowledgeable about fear, and maybe they're the ones that start the Spotlight organization. I don't know. Maybe they are the Spotlight organization. I do love the idea that Liu has presented himself in episode 8 as being this like good-hearted reporter, and his daughter's a hero and all this, but now I'm like, ooh, you might be in deals with the devil. I don't know, Liu. I'm looking at you. You're looking a little bit morally gray. So then she shows up at the orphanage. She shows up back at the orphanage where everybody's like zombified, roaming around. All the people. Again, the spores aren't really explained. They're just zombies from the Dean. And so they all go towards her. And she skates away from them, which is fine. And then as she sees them all coming up, she takes her guitar, makes it into a bow, and says, sorry about this, and shoots at her up against the wall, and says, it looks like this strange substance is causing all of this. Girl, I'm glad you did your research. I mean, she's like, I can free everyone by hitting the substance. How do you know? How do you know? Who told you? You just guessed this? Girl, you thought your friend was either dead or didn't go see him for years. What? That jump in the logic, I mean, granted, if I saw spores on somebody, I'd be like, okay, that could be the cause. I'll give her that. But it's one thing to be like, oh, I think I'll shoot the spores and maybe that'll stop it. She didn't even think about it. She didn't go, well, if I hit it, they're going to go back to normal. I'm like, girl, where was the experimentation? Why didn't she hit the spores on one person, see what happened? And then said, okay, confirmed. Now I'll do it. She just starts firing the bow and arrow like freaking Legolas taking down orcs. She just starts running around, shooting everybody with the arrows. If they all die, you know what could be done? My good luck arrows. Also, her flying through the air shooting these arrows, like she's been like a professional bow and arrow shooter for like she's been in Sarune for 5 seasons. What? Again, there was no setup of her being an archer. There was no setup of that at all. It's just, look at this cool guitar that can become a bow. Isn't that neat? No setup of that whatsoever. There's no background information of her ever shooting a bow ever. So her just becoming a professional archer makes no sense. There is no moment that the public is manifesting these powers within her, which is how the trust value system works. So it doesn't make sense with the world building. It just looks cool, but it doesn't logistically make sense in the world. I'm like, what? I'm like this guy. What? Yeah, we don't actually see it heal anybody. We just see her like getting people nailed to a wall. I mean, look, it happened to Jesus, but so, okay. I guess was this back around the town that she once was in? But no, it feels like the orphanage. So what is what? What is what now? So she gets picked up by old Dean. Now, I will say this. I do like the Dean becoming like Cthulhu. I do like the Dean becoming Gozer meets Cthulhu. I think it's cool. I do like Cthulhu Dean. He's fun. I love his design. It looks like this bog of smoke and everything. He says, I need you to suffer like I have. Would be great if we got your backstory, dude. Would have been great if we got your backstory. Would have been awesome to know what kind of hero you were and why you fell from grace. Your fall from grace had nothing to do with her because it doesn't seem like she was born when that happened. So, the unsolved drop plot lines, the Dean's backstory. Who even cares? Don't even care. Doesn't matter. Not necessary. Not needed. What? Who even cares? So yeah, so she falls down, and then she has this, like, lucky spray? Again! It just like that. This felt like episode 9 was the first. It felt like episodes 8 and 9 were like the first. It felt like episode 8 was the first of a trilogy, and it's really solid, really good construct, really interesting concepts. Really cool to see like these characters develop. It has lots of questions, leaves you answering. The second one's kind of like the sequel where you're like, it's not as good as the one before it, but it's still good. It's still leaving with lots of questions, leaves on a cliffhanger. The third one is like, they just want to sell the merchandise at this point. So they just add in a bunch of shit. They're just like, okay, she's got a bow and arrow guitar now, and she has this cool battle uniform, and she has like lucky spray, but you didn't explain how any of it worked. And there wasn't any like reason for it, except now it's like air freshener. She just sprays Axe all around everywhere. Like, what does the lucky spray do? What does it even do? How does it's an aerosol of luck. How does it a manifestation of her power? How'd you pressurize that in an air canister? The physics aren't physicking. I know that's not a word, but she's like, in this area, I can avoid all of your attacks. Why? Who made up that logic? When did that become a thing? Why is it a thing? We don't get any explanation. And yeah, and she's flying through the air like a freaking superhero, but when was this ever established? And then just fires an arrow at him and hits the part that it causes this really cool explosion. It is a spectacle. This episode is a spectacle. And it's so over the top and so much jammed into one episode, but it's at the expense of so much like logical jumps you have to just go with. I mean, if we're supposed to do it like on a leap of faith and you're tying that to the theme of luck and everything, then bravo, touche. But what is this? Not since the days of Bungo Stray Dogs have I seen such leaps. And those I can understand. But yeah, he looks like the monster from Fern Gully. Oh, where's Tim Curry when we need him? But yeah, so this whole scene here where she's just flying through the air like two seconds ago, he was like gripping her in his like transparent grip, and now she's flying through him. Granted, the animation's amazing. Love the animation. Looks really good. When did she have time to get these abilities? Miss, I have no battle experience at all. Suddenly is doing this. What? So then she takes her hammer, her guitar, and hammers it down like Gallagher. Hits him over the head with it, which was a great shot. Good for her. Love that for her. And then she breaks the guitar, which I really, again, it would have been cool, because now this guitar is smashed, would have been cool to have a callback to the old guitar. And what gets me is, like, she, again, like, F Lowe's drag. F Lowe, because she was like, she came there earlier in the episode being like, I need to find him. And I don't think he's dead. And I really think he's alive. And the dean's like, just forget he doesn't exist. He's better off without you. And you would think the first thing that she would do upon coming back to the mansion after defeating the dean is, hey, I need to go reconnect with Lowe. And maybe we can go find the file together. F his drag. He's not important anymore. I was just like, you guys were besties. What? Like, it's such a disservice to her character. Also, she has a magic yo-yo that can just, you just talk into it like it's Alexis, and it goes or Siri, and it goes and finds what you're looking for. Again, it's like, this is like, whose line is it anyway? The rules are made up and the points don't matter. That's what this episode felt like. A personification of it. So she goes to the desk, which, you know, again, if this had been expanded upon in a way by Lowe, it feels like such a missed opportunity, because he could have been like standing in the doorway looking at her and been like, oh, so you didn't care about me. And she could have been like, what? And she's like, I have to find this file. And he's like, you've known I was alive all this time and you said you were going to come look for me, but when you finally get the chance to, you go and look for this instead. If you were going to go for the melodrama, you could have hammed it up. You could have amped it up. You could have had this moment. Because she finds the file, and then that's when he's like, I knew you'd come. And she's like, oh, Lowe. And then he goes into all this jazz about the misfortune. Like, I wish he wouldn't have focused on this. I wish, because the whole misfortune thing, being like, I let your innocent appearance trick me. I'm like, dude, you know she's innocent. You heard her talk to the dean. You know it. Like, what? Like, I wish he wouldn't have focused on this very flimsy premise that doesn't really hold a lot of water, and instead focus on the very real thing, which was that she focused on a hero mission more than her friendship. I think if you had focused on that, this would have been a much more powerful moment. But instead he's like, you were a baby and my parents died because of your good luck. And she's like, I had no control over that. You said you didn't want to become a hero, but what now? I mean, true, she did say that, but you encouraged her to become a hero. Now, he does bring up a good point. He says, ever since you left, you hadn't thought about coming back. Now, I wish you would have focused more on that, because that's really where all this came from. They've become sacrifices for your fortune, and they've been abandoned and reviled. And when he says my parents' death is because of you, she's like, she should have been like, I was a toddler, bitch. What did you want me to do on the plane? Not cry and be a toddler? Like, I could barely walk. Like, you know? And then I thought, okay, she's like, I've been trying to find out about you this whole time. She's not done a very good job of that, to be fair. She really has not shown that she's been trying. That's the thing, too. Her arguing, saying, I've been trying to find you this whole time, is really shallow and hollow in this episode, when she just showed up after 2 years for the first time at the orphanage, and her only excuse was, they told me that you weren't here. That's not you going to find out about him. That's you believing what they told you. Like, what? So then, did you find the reason for my misfortune? It was all thanks to you. I'm like, but didn't you have misfortune before you stumbled across her? That doesn't make any sense. And then she's like, again, she thinks I have to find a way to get the file out. Like, I am kind of mad that she wasn't thinking about Lo at all. She just wanted to get the file out because that was part of her image and reputation. And I think they could have done something really cool with that in this episode, but they don't. It's such a missed opportunity, and they don't do anything with it. So then she like tries to escape past him. He just yells. I was like, powers? Nope, never heard of them. And then she goes to this like scanner. Again, here's my thing too. What is this piece of tech? What does it do? How do you know how to use it? Where was the debriefing where Cyan was taught how to use this equipment? How does this relay information? What does this do? How were you trained to use the equipment? You were like 18 and had been secluded from using anything other than being a like sacred maiden. Like, what? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. How did she know how to use this tech that she'd never used before? The leaps in logic. I was like, what? Because she suddenly knows how to put this device in there. Like, girl, when were you debriefed on any of this? Like, what? The leaps in logic are insane in this part. Then he takes this, the microphone stand, and instead he hits the actual computer desk, which she's like, oh shit, oh no, it's hit. Crap. And I felt like, again, he didn't mention the guitar or like use any weapons for it. I was like, why not? What a missed opportunity. Why wasn't he on rollerblades too? They could have skated. You could have had some like visual parallels to them skating through. You could have had them skating throughout the orphanage, and it could have been a parallel to them skating to escape or skating away that night. Like, there were so many chances you could call back to the imagery from the episodes before. But instead it's this, like, okay, so you've hit the device, so she can't do anything with the file transfer. His, like, eye mask falls off, and you find out that he's possessed by the Dean. So I guess that's from it. He's just been a toy of the Dean's. We could have had more explanation of that. And he's like, I'm going to hit you with this mic stand now. And then she takes the ball and is like, I thought she was going to hit him with the ball, but instead she throws the ball. And here's the weird part. The whole thing about the ball back in episode 8 was that he's like, your luck isn't perfect, and breaking something does not mean you're not unlucky. And I guess that's what it is trying to do here, but it's okay. And I'm like, so wait, how does getting wet break the powers of the spores? And then how does getting wet turn the computer on and somehow make it work? What? And then he goes to hit her in that moment, and we have, okay, so then we flash back to the powers on the plane. Now, this is, I guess they're showing, okay, yes, what they show is that somehow the computer machine was destroyed, whatever the computer machine was supposed to do, but somehow the rainwater sparked it, causing it to come on and play the file. That's not how technology works. You don't break a computer and then water comes on and it turns on and works for you. That's not how that works. But we're just going to suspend our logic for now. We're going to turn our brains off for a moment and pretend that ChatGPT probably didn't write this part and say, okay, then we cut to the plane. And I wanted to see what had happened on the plane. So we get that. And we find out that the fuselage was tore open. Now, the whole idea that this was caused by a hero or a hero didn't prevent this from happening, we're not going to talk about that right now. We're not going to, come to grips with that. But we do see, which honestly, the guy that is Cyan's dad looks kind of like the dean. For a hot second, I was like, what are we doing? But no. So it's Cyan, and they're holding her, and they just happen to be sitting next to Lo's parents, being like, we have a child of a similar age. We left them back at the airport. They're not with us on this flight. We don't care about our child that much, or apparently you all care about your child not too much. Take them on this plane flight. I do think it's kind of weird that Cyan's dad looks like the dean. That creeps me out a little bit. But yeah. So we have a child of a similar age too. Which I'm like, okay, you know what? Fine. His parents and her parents, they're like, we might not be able to see him again. Like, okay, sure. We hope that he'll live a good and healthy life. Like, okay, it is kind of generic. Like, in the moment this plane is crashing, you're possibly going to die. It's a little cheesy. Right? I think it's a little cheesy. It's like, I hope our son, it's like, gee willikers, I hope our son will live a good life. It's a little cheesy. And then as there's like disaster, people are like about to crash and all of this, then the dad, the dad doesn't look totally like the dean. Okay, well that's good. Then he starts singing this song. This is a song we always sang to our child. What? It's a little cheesy. I was kind of like, oh, that's a little cheesy. I mean, it's sweet. It's a sweet sentiment, but it just, of course, it conveniently instantly makes her feel better. Oh, it looks like she likes this random song too. I get where it's going. I get where it's at, but I was like, oh, this is how it happens. And I'm sure some people think that this is beautiful and that this is very sentimental and it's very sweet. It's so like, it feels like paint by numbers melodrama, like climax, like this is what happened. And our parents were sitting next to his parents on the plane and they were telling us about how they hoped their son would live. And he just happened to sing this song that she remembered from, age 3. Like that it would have almost been like more natural. It would have been more natural, like, because you sang the song for the child. So just singing, I guess they sang it because they were thinking of him in the moment, which is sweet. It would have been kind of more interesting to me if they'd been at the airport about to get on the plane and they'd been sitting at the airport terminal waiting. Because, everybody's at the airport terminal. You're all waiting in a queue to get on the plane, right? So the chances of you all being in that same space are pretty common, right? The odds of you getting set next to these parents and then you meeting him later is like pretty good odds. I mean, but that's her luck. She's good luck, so why not? But I thought it would have been cooler if she'd been at the airport terminal with the parents, and maybe they were like giving him to his grandma, like kissing him goodbye, and then the dad hums the song to him as he hands him off to the grandma, and Cyan hears that, and it sticks around from that. It was a little cheesy. That's my opinion. Sorry. Now, I do think it's really cool that she is the only baby on this plane. She is the only baby. These parents were the negligent ones that brought their infant aboard the plane. No, I'm kidding, but it is kind of like, what are the odds that she's the only baby on this plane, the only child? A plane full of adults and she's the only child. And so they all take pity on her and they all wish for her to live. They're like, if miracles exist, then let this child live. And so she ends up, they basically like pass her around like a hot potato and give her all of their, and maybe they don't actually, pass her around like a hot potato, but they all wish for her to live. Now, I do love that. I do love the idea that her luck is everyone wishing for her to have something. That I think is a very cool contrast to what has been going on throughout the episode, where throughout the last couple episodes, everyone has been taking from Cyan, taking her luck to benefit themselves and to see what can she do for me? How can she help me? Like, that's been what's been going on. But then you find out the source of her luck, what gives her all that good fortune, was actually everyone giving to her, not taking from her. And that is a very cool part of the episode. Like, I think the whole the parents, like the way the song comes out, I think that was like kind of cheesy, but I love the theme of how luck and good fortune works. I think that was really well done. I liked that. And then that's the reason why she survives. They're like, that's all good. Yep. And she's like, I heard this song somewhere before. Yep. And so we go back to that. And so then he like turns back to normal and it's all good. Hey, they lived. I was wrong. I thought Lo was going to die. Here's the thing. I was waiting at the end of this episode when he reaches his hand out to her and he reaches out for her toucher. And at first she's like really, and he like smiles and she smiles. When she went to grab his hand, I was for sure there was going to be like, boom. And like Esau was going to come through and like shoot him and go. I was for sure. I thought Lo was going to die. I thought he was going to die in that moment. I was so convinced that man was going to die. I thought it was going to happen. And he's like, I haven't seen you in years. I'm like, it's only been 24 months, y'all. It's been 2 years. Whatever. So, okay. They're like following the release of information related to the plane crash. So they don't actually reveal anything that has to do with the heroes not rescuing the plane or helping the plane out. None of that is revealed. But Lucky Cyan's true history has revealed. And I'm like, wow, it's almost as if she, said bring the truth out and it would have helped her. It's almost as if what she wanted to do from the beginning actually worked. Almost seems like it. It came from the wishes of the victims of the crash. So everyone has now earned praise from that. She carries the blessings of the air disaster victims. It's made a comeback and she shot up to rank 7. The previously misfortune-plagued orphanage has now reopened. I mean, do we find out what happened to the dean? Do we find out what happened? Okay, you can see DOS, like under their top 7, Lucky Cyan. You can see that. The incident has also implicated the existence of a force that contradicts trust. So, this energy, once spread, will cause damage to our society. So is that the dean in that moment? Interesting. Who are these people? The commission has officially named this energy fear. Who be this? Are these all of the CEOs? Are these all the CEOs of the company? They all look like they could be CEOs of the company. Maybe not. Interesting. Who be this man? Do I see Uncle Rock there? I can't tell. I was right to have trusted you all those years ago. We were meant to run into that good luck after all. And he's like, don't let your guard down now. We aren't the only ones secretly looking into fear. So 7 years ago, with the whole thing with Lucky Cyan is what caused the dean's ability. And the dean's ability to prey off of fear. He was the first one to act. So he was kind of like the OG villain. He was the first villain to access into fear. And now Mickey has tried to be accessing into fear. Shang is accessing into fear, potentially. We'll see about that. Shang accessing into fear. There's maybe... Was that the dean at the end that was going into this League of Villains? We don't know that. That's interesting. So what was this like... League of, is that the Spotlight organization? Where was that a Council of Hero commission? Was that all the CEOs? Don't know. Not being told. But yeah. Then Shang shows up. Sees the place. He's wearing the flower and he looks like he hasn't slept in 24 days. Meaning this is after his son has died. I wonder if Shang is looking into fear. I don't know. I feel like I kind of trust Mr. Shang a little bit. Not like in a... I feel like Shang, to me, is trying to figure out how to use fear, but I don't know. I don't get bad vibes from Shang. That's kind of the weird part. I don't get bad vibes from him. I feel like Liu is a lot shadier than he appeared before, especially working with Mickey, who I totally get bad vibes from. But I don't know about Shang. He kind of is like, if anybody's a gray character, Mr. Shang is to me. I feel like him losing his son has made him a lot more sympathetic to me. So we'll see what we do with that. But yeah. I talked for an hour and a half about this episode. Look. Was this a bad episode? No. I thoroughly enjoyed myself through parts of it. Is this the weakest narrative arc so far? In my opinion, yeah. It's the weakest arc so far. I like Cyan a lot. Cyan and Calamity, great job. But like their friendship, again, drop plot line. So much potential wasted. We did not have to... I feel like you could have done without doing this villain of the week treatment of the Dean and instead focused more on Calamity and Cyan's friendship and the concept of luck and the idea of the social commentary aspects of it. You could have dived so much deeper into it. This just did not feel up to the standard that I hold Lee Howlin to write. At parts of it felt like it was AI written. I was like, ooh, this does not make sense. What are we doing? And I'm not alleging that at all. I'm sure he wrote this script. I'm sure he created this, but it made some logical leaps that just, to me, did not hold water. And like, I'm used to his stuff with link click being very smart, very intelligent, like everything, even the stuff that doesn't link up, so to speak, has enough ambiguity to it that you're kind of like, okay, well, I could see where it goes this. I want to see what happens. This just, you found the answers and you're like, they did not add up. And so I was like, ugh. And I felt like there was a lot of wasted opportunities in the plot writing, a lot of plots that were just abandoned that had so much potential. And I don't know. It was definitely the weakest arc for me so far. I really like Cyan. I think Cyan's character, this arc is important because it's given us the concept of fear. So it's originated 7 years ago, the concept of fear. And it's introduced that some CEOs might be working with both the Hero Organization and the Spotlight Organization. There could be some overlap there. We still don't know Liu and the one guy he was working with. We still don't know about that. We still know about Queen, about some of the other heroes. Cyan's number 7 now, but that was 7 years ago. Has that changed? So I don't know. Lots of questions. Most of the questions I had were answered, but at the same time, I was like, how were they answered? Oh, not a bad episode, but just like a lot of nah. I would definitely, I don't know. I would definitely rewatch episode 8. Episode 8 was really good, but I was a little disappointed at the end result of what we got. And some of which not what I expected, but I'm not sure if that was in a good way. But I'm still happy with the series. The moderator was like, oh, just have faith and you'll see. And I was like, okay. I still have faith in the show. I think that it's going to take some of these concepts and maybe work better with them. As it goes, this one was just kind of like what a jump the shark moment. Her having, like, I go to a school where there are professional archers, like, that do this professionally, and I've seen firsthand how much difficulty it is to be an archer, and for her to just be like, pew, pew, pew. I was like, well, just, why not? Anyway, those are just my opinions. I had a lot of fun with this episode. I definitely am in a better mood than I was last week. I think it's, if you just stop caring, it'll get better. I cared too much about the plot holes last week, and this week it's like, just whatever. We're just here to have fun. So anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, we're going to start a new arc next week and see how that one goes, and I'll see you then with To Be Hero X. Bye.